Awesome. So glad to be with Christian Bronner. Christian, how are you?
What's going on, man? Doing good. Down in Tampa, enjoying the sunlight. How's Wisconsin?
It's cold. It's very, very cold. Possible tornado coming through, but we're making do. Warm weather around the way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm from upstate New York. Funny enough, we're from basically the same town up in New York, and the cold's been brutal. So definitely glad to be down in sunny Tampa, and grateful for you having me on.
Yeah. We right before we hit record, we were just talking, and we're from literally minutes away from one another, which is funny because the other day I was talking to somebody who was also from that area. So small world, but yeah, glad to be connected here. And just for some context, when people ask, "What do you do?" How do you respond?
Yeah. To put it really simply, I help other businesses sign more clients by sending them cold emails. And traditionally, whenever someone asks me that, I'll just look for like the nearest thing around me. Like, for example, this water bottle. Like, if this company wanted more clients, we would basically help them get in touch with restaurants, bars, grocery stores, and get their water bottles into more retail locations. That's pretty much how I explain it to someone who's not super familiar with marketing. For those of you who are familiar with marketing, I do B2B cold email for service providers, agencies, marketing companies, basically getting them in touch with qualified prospects that want to work with them. So,
Awesome. That's fairly niche, right? The B2B side. How'd you end up in that specific sector?
Yeah, so funny story. We started a podcast my freshman year of college, myself and my partner Andre, and we got really high level guests like Neil Patel and Brad Lee and a couple other high level guys, all by sending cold emails from our .edu emails. And we realized like people were responsive to a college kid, trying to get them onto their podcast. So was doing cold email inadvertently back then without even realizing it, and then started a marketing agency in college, and the whole goal was to help people build an online coaching program. And we were spending a lot of money on ads and realized that this wasn't sustainable at all. And that was when we discovered cold email through Twitter, through Cold Email Wizard, all that stuff. Realized we were better at the act of cold emailing than we actually were at, building a course program for people. So we pivoted to doing cold email as a service, grew that over the course of about a year and a half, and then started a coaching program teaching people how to use cold email in their business. So those are my two focuses now, is an agency and a coaching program all around cold email and lead generation.
That's awesome. And if you had to sort of summarize in just like a few bullet points, like what people mess up about cold email, what would be the high level things that you'd say?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that people mess up is they think that a random stranger that receives an email from you cares about you and your story and what you've done and what college you went to and who your cousin is, right? Like, people send these really long emails that are all focused on themselves, when in reality, all the prospect wants to know is what you can do for them in like 3 to 5 seconds. And if you can't communicate that effectively in a few seconds, you're not going to win the reply over and win the sales call. So yeah, just the biggest things I see people mess up are focusing the email too much about themselves, right? Spending 3 sentences talking about themselves, their background, what they have, their fancy software, when it should be 1 or 2 sentences focused on the prospect and what you can help them do. So the biggest 2 things are too long of an email and too much of a focus on yourself rather than your prospect. I think are the 2 big things that people mess up. That's high level. And then obviously there's technical mistakes like people using different fonts and bolding words and just sending like links and emails and making it really messy. But high level strategy is definitely too much, like I said, focused on themselves.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And how do you coach somebody on getting that 1 to 2 sentences like really tight, like creating that value right away? What's the hook look like? How's that sort of connected to the subject line? Walk us through like how you think about those pieces so that you can just hit that value right away.
Yeah, I always advise people to follow a framework where it's like personalization. Like, notice you're also from Albany, New York. Really enjoy going to the Saratoga Race course during the summer. Personalization. because we're both from the same area for people listening that are confused. Then you want to hook them with exactly what it is you can get them. We can help you book 10 sales calls a month. We can help you sign one high ticket client a month. We can grow your YouTube by 10,000 subscribers in the next 90 days. We can help you achieve X, right? And then if you have a guarantee, add that in as well. So we can help you achieve, 10K new YouTube subscribers in 90 days, or else you do not pay. That's the hook. So notice you're from Clifton Park, New York. Personalization hook, we can help you add 10,000 YouTube subscribers guaranteed in 90 days. CTA, call to action, are you open to discussing further, right? You want to keep it very concise, very succinct. Don't waste any time talking about, like, if you're listening right now, you're like, oh, well, I don't know how you get me 10,000 subscribers, right? That's completely fine. You want to save the majority of your offer and the really nitty gritty of it for the sales call or for the back and forth email conversation that you have with the person once they respond. The only thing you want to do with the initial email is make it short enough and valuable enough to where they want to respond, and then let the follow-up and the sales calls handle the rest of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And one sort of connected strategy, and I don't know if you still use this or not, but you reference on your YouTube channel the 1-2 punch,
Yep.
which has kind of similar to what you're sort of discussing here. Can you walk through how that strategy works?
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of people want to tell their life story in the first email, and I like to do what I just outlined, where it's like personalization, hook, CTA, and you're like, well, what if I have case studies and want to elaborate on my offer? Something that you would traditionally write in email 1, I kind of realized, like, why don't I bump this down to email 2? So my second email is a lot more long-winded, where it's like case study, elaboration, CTA straight for a call. And instead of pitching that in email 1, I'm now pitching that down in the second email. And then my original first email is just really short, where it's like 10K YouTube subscribers or you don't pay. And that's like the entire email. And I call it the 1-2 punch because the first email that you're sending is kind of like the hook or the jab, right? Where it's like you're putting out a feeler, seeing if you can just get a response from a prospect without really spilling all of your, revealing your hand, right? Because if you pitch all of your service in the first email, every follow-up you send, they're going to be like, oh, this guy's spamming me, unsubscribe. Their flag is raised that you're pitching them. But if you keep it really short and to the point in email 1, you can save the majority of that information for email 2. So basically just a way to give yourself a 2-email chance at getting a response instead of putting all your eggs in one basket up in email 1. And if you don't get a response to email 1, like I said, the prospect's going to know that every email after that is a pitch. But with my strategy, the first email is vague intentionally to give yourself that first chance of getting a response. If they don't answer, you give yourself the second email to kind of hit them with the hook and get a response that way. So basically just giving yourself 2 chances.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense from the client side. And as somebody that's sort of been on the other side of those cold emails, I mean, you notice that 99% of them are just terrible, right? So, they're exactly what you said. They're filled with way too much content. It's not irrelevant. It's really sort of written from the point of view of what the person wants rather than the respondent. So everything that you're saying really lines up with, okay, yeah, this is high value. I'm going to reply. I'm going to engage. Just to dive a little bit deeper, when you're coaching somebody, personalization is really key. Are you staying completely off like the automation software and those kind of things? Are you like, or how's your sort of system work?
Yeah, so all of our emails are automated through a sending software, so we're not sitting there typing out 500 emails a day, right? It's all through a sending software, but like I said, the copy is concise enough and personalized enough to where it's not, coming across as really spammy and salesy, right? Obviously, we still do get responses from people like spam or unsubscribe me, right? Like those angry emails are bound to happen in the outbound marketing game. It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to say like send emails at a mass scale, but have enough strategy behind them to where they don't appear like a mass marketed email, right? So if I send like 500 people in the Albany area an email that opens with, love meeting other entrepreneurs from Albany, every single one of them is going to be like, oh, this is personalized. This guy's also from my area. He took the time to do his research. I'm only writing that line once, but it's applying to all 500 people in my campaign. So it's like basically highly leveraged personalization where you're doing one set of personalization on the input side, and then the output is 500 emails that apply to all 500 people that you're reaching out to.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And that way you're not really sort of messing with like the ConvertKit style fields and then potentially sort of making it more complicated than you need to.
Yeah, we've dabbled in stuff like some of the AI stuff coming out is pretty interesting, where like you can pull specific stuff from people's websites at scale and mention that in the email. But AI still has, I think, a long way to go before it's really reliable, because obviously not all 500 of the emails are going to be relevant to the prospect, and then you're going to get people saying like, "Oh, this is false info," and you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot that way.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. One thing I think that separates your content on Twitter, well, I think two things. One, you've got a wide breadth of stuff that you're really sort of posting on there that I think shows a little bit more personality and sort of goes a little bit sort of deeper on brand. But two, you also have, if I'm not mistaken, a pretty comprehensive paid strategy. Can you walk us through how you're targeting that and who you're really sort of looking for with your B2B customers?
With my paid ads on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for my coaching program, transparently, we all run Twitter ads to generate leads and calls booked and new students for our program. But I think the thing that separates us from a lot of people that run ads is all of our ads target our own followers, meaning we're not, targeting anyone interested in marketing. We're targeting people that already follow us and are already familiar with us and our personality and our brand and the stuff we put out. So I think it's a really, the right way to do paid ads, where you're targeting people that already know and trust you and like you, and just kind of putting your offer more in front of them on a more regular basis with paid ads that actually gets them to take action to join and learn more about your program. So on one side, building a personal brand and growing a real following by showing my personality, putting out value, and then monetizing that by running ads to that audience to get them to convert into a high ticket offer.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're only targeting your actual followers with the ads, and that's it in terms of the Twitter strategy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. And what are the other platforms that you're primarily using? YouTube. Are you on Instagram? Is really using other platforms there? Or?
Yeah. So for me personally, I just started YouTube like the beginning of 2023. I just think it's a really good way to make more of a personal connection with people that follow me on Twitter, because it's face to face and you can see my face on camera. And it's more of a long form. Like a thread is a written thing that takes 2 minutes to read, whereas a YouTube video is 15 minutes of me sitting here and talking to you on camera. So YouTube's been a big thing for me. And then I only use Instagram for like personal stuff. And then I used to post a lot on LinkedIn, but I've been turned off on LinkedIn just because of how it just got really disingenuous with people sending automated messages all day long. So YouTube and Twitter for the most part. Maybe I'll get back on LinkedIn eventually, and then Instagram is just personal stuff. So those are my two wheelhouses.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As somebody that's built an agency and has seen a good amount of success, like what are the most common mistakes that you see newbies making or new business owners making, and how would you sort of coach against that?
I think the biggest thing is people get really excited when they sign a bunch of clients at first, and they celebrate like they're gonna like they just made it. But that the issue is, I think every new agency owner goes through it, where they sign a bunch of clients and then realize, oh shoot, I have to actually fulfill and deliver results for all these people. And that's when they get a reality check, like, okay, I was taking on any and everyone at first, and now I don't know how to fulfill for all these people. That's something that we experience at our agency. It's a big rookie mistake that a lot of people make. And I don't know if there's a way around it, because when you're first starting and you take on a bunch of clients, you feel like you're on top of the world, and that's the natural reaction for anybody, right? Like, it's really, really hard to turn clients away when you're first starting out, just because you really want to get that traction. So yeah, I guess a word of advice is to be really cautious when you're first starting out, when you're signing clients, because even if they're not the ideal fit for you, and their offer isn't the best and they don't have the best track record, you're still going to want to sign them on, just because you're so new and you want to get that revenue in the door and that initial traction with your agency. But But if you can, just be really cautious and use your discretion at who you're signing on, and make sure that you can actually fulfill for the clients that you sign on before you go ahead and scale. So take on those first few clients, get a bunch of systems and processes in place on your back end so you can actually fulfill for them, and then look to sign more clients, right? Because an agency, when you're growing it, it's going to be lead gen when you're looking for a bunch of clients, and it's going to be fulfillment when you're like, oh shoot, I have too many, I can't deliver results. And then you figure out how to deliver for them, you get more clients, you got to fulfill for them, and then it's just like a staircase, right? So be really intentional with who you sign at first, or else you're going to run into some trouble where you sign 10 clients and all 10 of them are pissed at you because it's tough to deliver for them. So yeah, just baby steps. That's my best piece of advice.
That's really good advice. Are there suggestions in there around how you sort of niche down or how you find that right market, or things that you found helpful? Like if you could run a test, or is there or is there, you just have to kind of go through it to really figure it out?
Yeah, the only way to learn is to do, right? You have to sign a bunch of clients. I shouldn't say sign a bunch like I just advised against, but sign your first couple clients, see which one get the best results for, see which offers you work the best with and can deliver results for. And then once you realize, okay, my wheelhouse is email marketers or TikTok agencies, then you can go out and do outbound marketing to acquire a bunch of these same agencies. And eventually you'll have, 10 clients that all offer the same stuff. You can repeat the same process for all 10 of them. And then your work becomes a lot easier than, delivering results for 10 people that have 10 different offers and 10 different use cases. And you have to come up with a unique strategy for all 10 of them. So yeah, the only way to really learn is to do it. And that might take a little bit of trial and error, like I just said, but you'll eventually land on a niche that you can scale with. So
that's awesome. But how long did it find you all to find that niche?
I would say, honestly, like a handful of months for us, where we realized that email marketing agencies were our wheelhouse. And then unfortunately, I put out a bunch of Twitter content on our strategy, and it kind of got saturated to the point where it wasn't working anymore, which is a regret of mine, but hindsight's 2020. So it took us a couple months to realize that we were really, really good working with email marketing agencies. And then, like I said, the market got a lot more saturated and it was harder for us to get results for them. So we eventually scaled back out and realized that, like, for the most part, B2B marketing agencies are where we operate the best. So yeah, it took us a couple months, and then we actually had to scale back out and go more broad and then niche back in again. So it's always an iterative process. Your strategy is always going to be evolving. But yeah, just figure out who you can get the best results with. It might take a month, it might take 6 months, and then once you figure that out, you can really reverse engineer how to get more of those clients by doing outbound marketing to sign them on.
Awesome. Well, this has been incredibly valuable. Where can people find out more about you and consume your content and all that good kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I would say the best places for that are on Twitter. My handle is at CBWritesCopy, WRITESCOPY, CB Writes Copy. Sorry, CB in front of that. But yeah, I'm really active on Twitter, always posting, putting out a lot of threads, a lot of random thoughts that come to my mind. I also answer DMs on Twitter if it's a good DM and not a spammy outreach message. And then YouTube, I think my handle is also CB Writes Copy on YouTube. You can find more of my in detailed stuff on cold email. I really, really try to keep it valuable and value driven on my YouTube. So yeah, those are my two main places to find me and connect with me and ask me anything you want to know about cold email. So
awesome. We'll make sure to link those in the show notes. But thank you for the time. It's been awesome chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Awesome.
Sweet.